Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Emma. And in the previous videos, we talked about the 5 tips about what you should do while you are traveling in China. And in these videos, we will continue to talk about the remaining 5 tips about what you should do while you are traveling in China. For most foreign friends, China is still very unfamiliar, and many people's impressions of China are still stuck in decades ago. So if you don't prepare in advance, you might encounter many troubles and culture shocks while visiting China. But I wonder why there are not so many local Chinese actually on the social media sharing ideas about the tips about what you should do and what things that you should avoid doing while traveling in China. So in this series, I will share the practical tips for you to better help you to travel in China and the top 10 things that you should do and the top 10 things that you should avoid doing while traveling in China from a Chinese insider's perspective. So let's get started. In China, high-speed rail is highly punctual and incredible fast. If you are not traveling long distance, such as from southernmost to the northernmost or from the east to the west, I believe taking the train is the better option for you because you don't have to travel far to the airport and you don't have to worry about the flight cancellations or delay, and the seats on the high-speed rail can be very comfortable, and based on my experience, you can order food or even get takeout delivered to your seat exactly. And the business class seats allow you to lie down completely during your whole trip, which is so comfortable. However, one crucial tip, you must book your train tickets well ahead of time. This was a lesson I learned basically every year, especially before the public holidays as the Chinese New Year or national holidays, and many routes can be completely sold out 2 weeks ahead of the departure time. So my advice is that you can easily book the train tickets on trip.com and you reserve the seat more than 2 weeks ahead of time. I found the best way was to purchase the tickets as soon as they go live right at the 2-week mark, because if you leave it just a few days in advance, they could be completely sold out. China's transportation system is quite convenient overall, and if you would like to get around within the city, I would personally recommend to use DiDi instead of a taxi. For those unfamiliar with DiDi, it's a Chinese version of Uber and Grab. I don't recommend the taxi because in my experience, taxis are way more expensive. DiDi has a very dynamic pricing system that adjusts based on the daily supply and demand. If you avoid the peak hours, you can usually get a discount ranging from 10% to 50%. And plus, if you are heading to a less known place, language barriers might prevent the taxi driver from helping you to reach your destination. But DiDi, on the other hand, can solve almost all the communication issues because you just need to key in the address to the apps, and DiDi will navigate the drivers to the place you want to go. Also, for DiDi, you don't need to worry about the payment because DiDi is linked to your credit card. They will pay automatically, and if you get off the car, and also all you need to do for DiDi is to copy the address and post it directly to DiDi. They will pay automatically if you get off the car, and all you need to do is just copy the address and then post it directly into DiDi. DiDi offers various car types and fare options, and generally speaking, the more expensive the car, the better the services, and the longer the waiting time, the cheaper the price. And the wait time also depends on when you are booking a ride. Try to avoid some rush hours the 9 a.m. or 6 p.m. to prevent higher surge pricing and longer waiting time. And of course, the metros can always be the most fastest and cheapest ways for you to get around, especially in those big cities. Overall speaking, it is fairly easy to use because a lot of the signs, at least in the big cities, are all in Chinese. If you have the Alipay, you are able to get your metro tickets or directly in there as well, because Alipay will automatically know which city you are in, and you just scan the QR code and going in and going out of the metro stations, and it will automatically calculate your fare and deduct it from your Alipay, which is quite convenient. As everyone knows that the food is always one of the most important parts of any trip in China. From like Chongqing hot pot to Peking duck to Guangdong dim sum, the choices are endless. But with so many delicious options, it can be very tough for you to decide where to eat, right? For me as a local, there is one essential app that I must introduce to you all. If you are a foodie or you haven't planned your trip yet, I definitely recommend you to download one of the most popular Chinese apps called Dianping. It is a little bit like the Yup. This is the app not only like tells you about the local restaurant, but also the favorite attractions, hotels, shops, and activities in each city. It has all the places in the area with the reviews, so you can find the restaurant, things to do, and the potential get discounts if you use the app. And it's super helpful for you to explore China and look for a more local experience. Besides Dianping, I also recommend Meituan. Meituan is just like the Uber Eats or DoorDash, and the food delivery is like insane in China because like within just half an hour or even less, you can get the food that you order, like especially in those like tier 1 cities in China. And also the delivery fee is just like less than 50 cents or even less. Depends on the distance of the shipping time. However, note that Dianping and Meituan are all in Chinese. But if you have noticed my previous videos, I talk about one of the translation apps called Baidu Translate. You can just take the screenshots and translate the content into English. Maybe it takes a bit of time, but it's definitely worth it. So I highly recommend getting Dianping and Meituan if you are willing to try new foods and see new things that you might not see in just those choice areas. These two apps, you definitely need to download it. If you are out walking around in China, you are more than likely going to have to use the restroom at some point. There are plenty of public restrooms around, but the thing is that the majority of the toilets in China are actually squat toilets. As a Westerner, I know like you might find this a little bit like unfamiliar and it looks sometimes a little bit like scary at first, but trust me, they are not that bad because in some Chinese culture, squat toilets are considered a more healthy option. But of course, this is not the case in most regular hotels or fancy malls where you can always find the Western style toilets. And most restaurants in malls do offer at least a few stalls of regular Western toilets. So if you have the mobility issues, you can navigate the availability of the Western style toilets in those restaurants and malls. You may adjust your travel routes accordingly. China is a country with a population of 1.4 billion people and is known for its bustling tourism attractions, especially during major holidays when the crowds can be overwhelming, and it can be like this, and like this. And this can lead to inevitable close contact with others. This contact may sometimes make you feel a little bit like uncomfortable. However, if you planned your trip well in advance, you can avoid this situation. Remember, when planning your trip, try to avoid major public holidays in China, like the Chinese New Year, national holidays, and the Labor Day. For instance, during the Chinese New Year, most people will have a 7-day holiday, and every year, about 800 million people travel, which is roughly half of the Chinese population. So, visiting tourist spots during this time can be extremely crowded.
绕不开解不开北京的圆儿，一阵儿晴一阵儿故宫的天儿。
Alright, those are the top 10 practical tips about what you need to do when you are traveling in China. And I hope these cultural announcements will help you to appreciate and navigate the rich and diversified landscape of the Chinese society. And in the next episode, I will introduce the top 10 things you should avoid doing while you are traveling in China to keep you out of the trouble. If you found these videos helpful, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and please subscribe my channels. See you next time. Bye.